Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time again for the one and only. It's the Rad Life. With our resident raconteur, our man about town, the only one in town who knows everybody. I think it's got to be our host, Raad Ghantous. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
You know, every time you say raconteur, all I can think of, and I'm a product of my age, I guess, is Ratfink. Do you remember Ratfink?
Ratfink, oh yeah.
The cartoon Ratfink. I don't know why. Why am I? Is it the Ratcantour thing? The rat's the part of it? I don't know.
It's
You
just
might have to unpack that a little bit.
Yes, right. I think there's some.
Understand.
Oh, look at the time. It's not that long a show. We can't unpack anything in the show. I mean, the only thing we can unpack is, we have said this for years, is this show, The Rad Life, also doubles up as Paul Roberts' therapy session.
Sometimes. Right. But I'm not the one with the problem with rock. I thought always that raconteur was a cool thing. You'd watch the old Johnny Carson show, and you'd see mostly Irish actors, like, name any of the great ones here, and they'd come on and tell these stories, these tales of, drinking and living and life and...
Okay.
Yeah, see, I'm not the one we have to unpack.
Painted.
Yeah, I'm not the one, Julianna, that we need to unpack for. It's the man behind
Peter
the curtain.
O'Toole. He would tell these wild tales.
You're kind of like the Wizard of Oz, right? You're the man behind the curtain.
Completely.
Do not pull the curtain.
Completely.
Yeah.
I love
so
people be shocked to see I'm really only 4'2".
He is. He really is, and he wears platforms.
So you pulled out some big guests again here today.
Yes.
You got Chef Pascal to come back. That's amazing in and of itself.
Well, he likes the music. He likes the intro music. He keeps drumming. I'm going to have to get him some drumsticks, I think, for when I'm not here.
I'm just hoping he brings some food one of these times.
He's going to keep after you.
It's
until
lunchtime,
you bring some food.
Keep asking.
He probably can't escape the connection with food. I have a feeling.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's what no good deed goes unpunished. When you're good at something, I guess they want more of it. So,
That's right. That's right.
Paul, I do have a bit of housekeeping before we start, actually.
Okay.
So for those who are not aware, we mentioned it before in passing, but I just want to be clear. Monsieur Pascal Olatz, chef, goat of Orange County.
Greatest of all time.
Greatest of all times. He will be gracious enough to sit in for me the next 3 weeks that I will be out of country.
And tell where you're going.
I'm not going to tell where I'm going. I may call in and just check on you, make sure you're not giving
you're not just
Pascal a
going
hard
to
time.
Hawaii.
You may not have connection where you are.
Oh, I'll make sure I have connection.
You're going to be on a private yacht in the Mediterranean.
I'm not on a private
It's
yacht.
a fishing
Yes,
boat.
you are.
A fishing boat.
No, it's not.
Yes, I'm going to fish in the Mediterranean in order to, make sure that I can pay my dues at OC Talk Radio and keep the show going, right? And if anybody knows about the Mediterranean and fishing, sadly, and I'm a scuba diver, but sadly, in the Mediterranean, a lot of places, they fish with dynamite.
Really?
Kidding. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. My first
Faster fishing.
dive trip in the Mediterranean was, oh, boy, let's go diving. Why am I not seeing anything bigger than this size of a fish?
Oh, wow.
Is because they literally, like in Lebanon, in Cyprus, they fish with dynamite.
They actually keep the fish and eat
Yeah,
them?
oh yeah,
Or
they
try to
just
get rid of
stuns
them?
them.
but they're like, let's just throw
They
some dynamite.
already got it.
Oh.
Yeah,
They already
we'll
got
throw
it.
some
Makes it
dynamite,
easier to cook.
or some sort of explosive. But that's how they fish, and then
Oh,
they
wow.
scoop it up and move
Oh, they
on.
just
No
float
way.
to the top
Yeah.
and then scoop it up.
It
Yeah,
stuns them.
So
Stuns
my
them, yeah.
my attempt at downplaying this trip and saying that I'm on a fishing trawler somewhere in the Mediterranean doesn't really fly because there's nothing to fish for.
Only Rod is on a private yacht with some old buddies from his school in Switzerland here.
No. Shout out to Claremont Graduate School, Peter
Claremont
Drucker Center.
Oh, he has
Yes.
to throw that in. Okay, that's even been more than the Swiss
Well,
boarding
it is
school.
an academic show, okay? So I'm trying to build the level here
Okay, all right.
of academia. Do you want to mention your alma mater too, since we're at it? I mean, it's
University of Michigan.
It's going to sneak in anyway. at some
National
point.
champions.
Did you know, speaking of college and how it's important to basically foster the talents of people?
Yes.
Sometimes you get misguided direction and you end up with Paul,
Like
right?
the guy here.
Yeah. But Paul, again, to give people a shout out, and I think it's a very admirable thing and, kind of life unfolding lesson kind of to be inspired by, is Paul used to run the radio station
At the
at
University,
the University of
yeah.
Michigan
Oh, is
when
that
he
right?
when
Is that
I was
where
in
you got your
school.
start?
WCBN, yeah.
WCBN.
WCBN.
And he basically, and you were doing a law degree at the time?
Oh, that was the second go around. I ran the College Station at Michigan and then decided I had to go to law school because I was a political science major and graduated magna cum laude, by the way. And then I went to law school at William and Mary and found myself running
knew
a
I should not have opened this
student
door.
radio station there. One day I would call in sick to class.
Over
And I was thinking, oh yeah, hello. Wait, this is Paul Roberts.
And
He
my-
takes over the show.
and my
He
prof-
brings you in. You pay for the air. You pay for the
Can we
airtime, and he
introduce
takes
our
over the
guest?
show.
And my professor heard me on the air one day and said, "You called in sick to class. What are you doing on the air?" I said, "I don't know. What am I doing?" So I quit law school and went into radio.
Yeah, but people think, and this is Paul will tell you, people think that we're off on a random tangent and all this stuff and whatever. And he goes, well, how is he gonna
pull it back.
pull it back? Here's how I'm gonna pull it back.
Yes.
Okay. School is different for different people.
Yeah.
The way you learn is different for different people. And here you are, many moons later.
Many.
Basically back at doing something that you did as a side thing when you were in school.
Right.
And you're having more fun at this, and it was a result of having to pivot because your quote-unquote chosen career path hit a snag in 2008.
Crashed.
Yeah.
Crashed. Yeah. Right.
I love that.
So that's why I'm bringing it up. Not that you should take over the show now. But
What I thought was
Yeah.
just for fun in college turned out to be a real passion that I could never give up, and I found my way back to it 50 years later.
So here's my question to you, because I want to come back to this, and I'm going to ask everybody around the table about it.
You got to introduce your guest at some point. yeah.
How I want you to keep this in mind, and I'll get back to you, Paul. Okay.
Okay.
Were you aware, other than this is something I'm doing for shits and giggles? Were you aware that when you were doing this in college?
Did he say shit?
Yes, this is
Oh,
not.
yeah.
This is not an. Is it that kind of station?
It's not an
If
FCC
it is, it's
regulated
too
station.
late. I haven't been paying attention for
He's
30
speaking French now.
No,
Speaking French.
zut and merde. But I want you to think about, like, if you could transport back, would you have had the wherewithal and the awareness that this is something that you could have pursued, right? Or is it something that just basically, because it happens to all of us, right? I mean, you and I, we've talked about this, Julianna, we've talked about this, happy accidents,
Yeah.
and how sometimes the path that you set is not the path you end
Yeah,
up on,
definitely.
and being able to have the wherewithal and awareness and spend the time to develop that muscle so that you can pick up on that,
Yeah.
because quote unquote education, academics, college.
Yeah.
In Arabic, the word for college actually translates as a place where there's a compilation of things. And so life experience, academics is one layer. Things like Paul did with the radio station is
Yeah.
another layer, right?
Yeah.
It's where you kind of go find yourself, but it's
Yeah.
not just all in the classroom.
Kind of exploration.
Right. So with that, I will introduce my guest, Dr. Julianna Barnes, Chancellor of the South County Community Colleges, and you have a story of your own kind of to tell about that, kind of
Yeah.
like how you found yourself in this position, right?
Yeah, you were making me think, Paul, about my own. Interestingly, not a lot of people know this. I actually entered into the university pre-med. So I was like really interested in math and science. I went to UC San Diego and I was at Revelle College, and people all know that Revelle College is like, that's the school, like if you want to go into medicine.
Can we get her a little closer to the mic there?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Here.
And so
Just turn her around. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, so I did all my math and science, physics, chem, bio, calculus, all of that. And all the while, I was also working as a student ambassador, and I was helping students who are like first generation students whose parents had never gone to college. I was helping them as a counselor aide, intern to the university, and sharing my own experiences. And the more I did that, and also it's hardcore, the whole math and science,
Why medicine or pre-med?
It was just because that's all I knew. Like in high school, you either become a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher. Just to your point, you don't know the
And
whole.
was that a guidance counselor kind of direction, or how did you, or was it just sort of the traditional path?
It was just like
jobs?
the traditional path, and I
These
was
are
like
the only acceptable.
in AP classes,
Got it.
and so everybody was like, well, "What are you going to go into? What are you going
Yeah.
to go into?"
That's
And
why I
it was-
went to law school. I
Yeah.
didn't know what else to do.
I was going to be an engineer.
Yeah, like
Look what happened.
Right, like the traditional pathways, right? So I go, that must be my pathway.
Yeah.
And as much as I love the math and sciences, I also did really well, like in the social sciences and writing and literature. So all of that, I ended up totally changing to sociology, which obviously is like a broad discipline. And anyway, as my years as a student ambassador, so here I was 18 as a student ambassador, counselor aide, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is my calling. And so when a lot of people ask me about how did I arrive here, I go back to those early experiences, because a lot of people kind of discount those experiences that you have as a student, as a student worker, but those were the experiences that set me on the path to get into education and to do it.
And in order to do that sort of student ambassador and assist people that are going to school for the first time in their families, was that something that you just did because it was available while you were in school, or was there something that kind of leaned you towards that?
It was just friends in college that had told me I needed a job.
So here's a good job.
To be honest with you, I worked in the cafeteria and I washed dishes in the cafeteria, and I always say that was like my favorite job because one, I was broke as a joke, and I got free meals. So I got 19 meals a week washing dishes in the cafeteria. So back in the day, in the cafeteria, it was all you can eat, and you would get a tray, put all your food on, eat it, and then you'd put the tray on the conveyor belt and it went behind the window. I was the one that received the dishes and washed them proudly because I got free meals. And interestingly too, here's another inspiration that I think about in my profession. At UC San Diego, it wasn't super diverse, right? But in the cafeteria, it was. So I kind of found my community in the cafeteria with
behind
the cafeteria
the counter.
Workers. And so in my mind, as I progressed in my career in education, I thought a student shouldn't have to work at a cafeteria or be in a pocket of an institution in order to feel like they belong, that they feel connected, right? And so that stuck with me.
So were you aware of that, again, going back to that sort of that muscle I'm talking about, right? Where it's like when you're having that epiphany, you're having the awareness close to the moment that you experience something, right? Versus like years later looking back.
Yeah.
Did you have that relatively close to when you were doing it, that you had that sort of you connected the dots for you?
I had it in my mind, and I wasn't able to articulate it at the time.
Until later.
Right, but I knew when I walked through the university, I didn't feel connected. I felt disconnected. But I knew that there were, again, particular pockets of the university where I felt connected. And hence, being in the community college now, which is super diverse, we have one of the most diverse systems of higher education in the United States, the California community colleges. And it's just a beautiful array of diversity, socially, culturally, everything. And that's one of the things I've always vowed to do as an administrator, is to ensure that students feel a sense of belonging broadly at our campuses and institutions, so that they don't just have to find it in a corner of campus, right?
Just more holistically throughout the whole college or campus experience. Yeah. What do you credit that for, as far as the California community colleges? Like, why do we have that kind of diversity?
Well, first of all, so there's the three main segments of public education. So you have the California community colleges, the California State University system, and the University of California system. And what's beautiful about the California community colleges is we take 100% of students, right? So what we call ourselves is an open door institution. So we take students as they are. Interestingly, this morning I was actually at an event at the United Domestic Workers kickoff event, where the community colleges are going to be proactively working with United Domestic Workers, who are really the home health care workers. And Orange County has one of the largest concentrations of UDW workers in California. And I was really honored that my district and colleges had the launch for a pilot program, which we want to bring to scale, to offer pathways for UDW workers to enter into the community colleges, to upskill and to go into other careers that would give them, a better living wage, right? An increased living wage. Yeah. But all that said, going back to the open door institutions, this is what I said this morning. Even though we're very proud of taking 100% of our students, right? Hence the diversity that you talked about. Even though we're very proud of it, we're realizing that it's not enough to say we're open door institution. The paradigm has shifted. We open the door, and then we have to be intentional and proactive with inviting individuals in. Hence, a program like this new UDW program that we just launched, right? So we have to be really intentional in opening the door and then reaching out and being proactive with creating those pathways, so that individuals actually enter in seamlessly, and then again feel like, oh, I belong here, I know what I need to do, and these are all my career options, right?
So you know what I'm hearing, and relevant, and this is another example of it, but because you've shared some other stuff with me before, but I think it seems to me like within the community college system, there's almost a more opportunity to initiate innovative programs like that.
Yeah.
Because specifically to this one that you're talking about,
Yeah.
having had two parents cared for at home,
Yeah.
and having the quality of the people, like there's some people that this is like it is a very hard job for people to do.
Yeah.
Emotionally, physically,
Definitely.
you know, there's such anybody, and we are an aging community. We talked about this the other day, like,
Yeah.
you know, like right now it's about 20%, 25% that are over the age of 65. So having qualified people to do this,
Yeah.
having people that you, as a person who's a loved one, having somebody care for
Yeah.
your loved one, it's important to feel that trust and comfort.
Yeah.
And we went through 8 months through multiple agencies
Yeah.
until we found a mix of people that
Yeah.
would actually provide the quality service that we don't.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it, and I asked, you know, and asked about background and training and stuff like that. I mean, they all kind of, most of them, not all of them, most of them are doing it because it's a calling.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're also doing it as a calling without really a lot of training.
Yeah.
It's kind of like on the job, learn as you go kind of stuff.
Right.
Some of them are actually doing it because it pays a little bit more than
Yeah.
it pays at Chick-fil-A, for example, or other fast food joints to work
Yeah.
on, right? So they're not really qualified. I asked, how many hours do you need to be qualified as like a caregiver, right?
Yeah.
The number of hours it takes to be certified as a caregiver is less than the number of hours, which are anemic to begin with, to be certified as a massage therapist.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's music to my ears to hear that you guys are pursuing that.
Yeah.
Plus, and honestly, it's a better wage.
Yeah.
It gives them an ability to grow and expand their abilities and skills within their chosen profession.
Right.
And it gives them recognition.
Yeah.
Because it was hard when I would hear like what we were paying to
Yeah.
the agencies and what the caregiver was making.
Yeah.
It was anemic.
Right.
And you saw what they put into their job.
Yeah.
So this is really great news.
You know, I'll kind of even give you another layer of greatness with regard to this program, again, which is just launching in California. And just today was the official launch of the program development. And based on what you were saying, here we have these home healthcare workers who are working just tirelessly,
Absolutely.
right? And have wonderful skills and experiences as home healthcare workers. So what the community colleges are doing is looking to pass regulation to ensure that the home healthcare workers have what we call credit for prior learning, CPL, so that there'll be a particular number of units that they have with them when they enter into college based on the experiences that they have. Like, do they really need to go into class to learn what they already know? So they're going to get, and we do this often with our veterans and our military personnel, but with our home healthcare workers, we're also looking at giving them credit for prior learning with the skills and experiences that they solidly already have, so that they already have a base with regard to units, so that they don't have to relearn those
Right.
skills that they already have years
Right.
of experience in. And so that way that gets them on the pathway quicker to the degree or certificate that they're seeking. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's really honestly wonderful news. I mean, the show, when we started the show 6-7 years ago, we started based on talking about difficult stuff that had to do with baby boomers and things that people were facing as they were aging, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I was doing groundwork basically to find out what I needed to know when it came time for my parents and taking care of my parents. I was like using the show as almost like a research laboratory and brought in people
Yeah.
and talked about it. So I know we got a lot to talk about, but this is really kind of important. And, you know, it's music to my ears. I'm sure things like the Council on Aging, other people in Orange County,
yeah.
as we are an aging community, Paul will tell you this is really something much needed.
Yeah.
And you know, these care workers, in many cases, the level of empathy, you know, vulnerability, they're dealing with a vulnerable population.
Yeah.
There's a trust situation. So this is not a
Yeah.
person that, hey, I have a task you need to do.
Yeah.
There's so much more involved. So
Right.
for them to be recognized through something like this, to assist them in pursuing further education and give them credit for what they are doing,
Yeah.
it's fabulous.
Right. And so obviously it's beneficial for them as individuals, but also beneficial for
For
Orange
the whole
County.
community.
Yeah.
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 No, that's awesome. And you know, I want to just switch gears for a minute, because you guys are sort of overlap on another thing that the community colleges are doing, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to the culinary side of things.
Exactly. So for context, we have, South Orange County has two colleges, Saddleback College and Irvine Valley College. and a site that's maybe not as quite well known, but I'm hoping that it will be, and that's the ATEP, Advanced Technology Education Park.
Somewhere one of them. It's the most recent of the three, right?
Exactly.
In terms of being open and
Right.
operating. Yeah.
So it's not an actual accredited college, but it's a site where we enter into public-private partnerships, and we basically have commercial and educational ground leases available. But we currently have a building, it's called the IDEA building through Irvine Valley College, and we broke ground, I think it's been about a year ago, on the new culinary arts building, and then also our automotive technology building. And so Pascal here is a wonderful faculty member for Saddleback College, and I know that you helped to inform the design and development of the building and also the programming. And so we're super excited to be able to, continue on with that building and hoping to continue to get your feedback and expertise and input.
Yeah, the goal is to make it big.
Yeah.
And we already have a good base
Yeah.
because the culinary program is quite extensive so far. We're going to make it bigger and even provide more opportunities of learning, not just cooking, but hospitality.
Yes.
Maybe we were talking about doing maybe enology and winemaking and all these things. Just because Southern California is developing so much and so fast.
Yeah.
On the I would say gastronomy, on even the production, the farming, and the
Yes.
farm to table system. So I think this is our opportunity to really open up.
So let's talk for a minute about that private-public kind of partnership, right? I mean, we had a groundbreaking at Cal State Fullerton. I'm on the board for their Center for Excellence, and we had a groundbreaking for a building that's actually, I would say, mostly funded by private. Right, which I think a lot of people don't realize that this is a very unusual situation for the way traditionally things have been done. Right? Can you want to talk a little bit more about that, and then can maybe Julianna talk about when you say Irvine Valley College and you talk about Saddleback, it's an open door, but you have a large cohort that goes through that school, right?
It's huge. We serve about 50,000 students every year. It's a pretty large district. There are four. I do want to acknowledge that there's 4 community college districts in Orange County, and we're obviously the southernmost community college district. But yeah, 50,000 students we serve, have just over 3,000 employees. And we actually just finished an economic impact study last year that showed that we contribute about almost $2 billion to the OC economy.
Wow.
And then, of course, job creation and, obviously alumni spending and obviously contributions to the workforce.
How does the district compare in terms of size and who they serve to the other 3 that you mentioned?
That's, what, I had to look that up the other day. I think the number that's in my head, I think as a collective, I think we serve about 250,000 students with both credit and non-credit and not for credit.
Yeah.
And in the state of California, all 116 community colleges as a collective serve, we just hit 2 million. So 250,000 here in Orange County alone.
That's quite a big
so
number.
it's a big concentration of students.
Yeah,
here.
that's a big number.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in your current position?
Oh, so this summer will be 2 years. Yeah, it went went pretty quickly. I was born and raised in San Diego. My entire career was in San Diego up until 2 years ago. I've shared that before, and so yeah, I've been here now for 2 years. Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
When did community colleges explode? Because they have exploded. My own daughter came out of high school and went to Saddleback.
Yeah.
Because she really wasn't ready for a 4-year university. And I don't know if it's just because of the cost of here at UCI's campus.
Yeah.
If it's the cost alone that people say, let's do the first 2 years at community college and then transfer, or is it the diversity of programs, or is it, I don't know. But I do know
what's the
that it's
appeal?
exploded. Yeah.
It's all of the above. It really is.
Because when I went to, full disclosure, back in the 70s in the Midwest, nobody in my high school thought about community colleges. They existed, but that was not an option for most of us. Your parents wouldn't say, okay, that was if you couldn't get in, you had to make up some grades or something here.
Yeah.
Now, everybody I know in South County says, I may not go straight to a four-year university. I may never go to a four-year university.
You know what I wanted. I appreciate that comment, Paul, and that is because I think maybe even 20 years ago, I remember talking to. I worked at another community college down in San Diego, and I remember going to one of the high schools to do some parent night or something like that, and they had a big map. The counselors, the high school counselors, had a big map on the wall. And it said, where are our graduates going? And it had little pins, you know, like they're going to UC Berkeley, they're going to ASU.
And so, big name, yeah.
And I looked, I'm like, where's the local community college? And they didn't have a pin for the local community college, but I happened to have the data in my hand.
How many people are in there?
Which showed that a majority of those high school students in that affluent community were actually going to the local community college, but it wasn't worthy enough to be on the map. And so I would.
And I think that's changed completely.
Well, I think what's changed, yeah, exactly. That's what's changed. I think the numbers have always been there, but the open discussions about, oh, my child went to Saddleback College or Irvine Valley College or XYZ Community College. I think people are more open to talking about it. And just by the way, there's legislation that just passed recently that now mandates that high schools always include community colleges into their college and career fairs, because that wasn't always the case.
That's so crazy that it wasn't.
Because again, we're kind of biased, like parents and community members are like, oh no, you must go to the university. But now community colleges, and generally we have beautiful high schools, and they usually invite us anyway. But now it's mandated by law throughout the state.
So let's talk about like what are the credentials, what are the levels of certifications, the level of degrees that are offered in the local community colleges. Because I would think that as the prominence of community colleges increases, and to your point, it's not that the numbers weren't there, but it was not necessarily on the radar.
Yeah.
I would think that the other universities, I mean, it is a pretty competitive market, right? Mm-hmm. For resources, especially if it's a state-based academic system.
Yeah, there's you're getting into my world where I have to go up to Sacramento a lot and deal with legislation and that kind of thing, and just fiscal advocacy and that kind of thing. So you're right. And so there is this thing called the Master Plan for Higher Education in California. It was developed in like 1967. Okay. That was a good year. Anyway, it was developed in 1967, and it's dated, but it basically keeps each of the units in their lane. The UCs are, and this is your lane. CSUs, this is your lane, and community colleges, this is your lane. Well, now there's like fuzziness in the lane. So, for example, the Cal State universities now can offer standalone doctoral programs. That happened past like I think 15 years ago. I'm a recipient of that. Actually, I was the very first cohort that benefited from that. Community colleges also passed legislation a number of years ago that allows us to offer baccalaureate degrees, and a lot of people don't know that. It started off with a pilot of 15, and now I think we're up to like 35 throughout the state. Both of my colleges are exploring offering standalone baccalaureate degrees, but where the greatest need is in nursing. So in the next decade, I'm gonna misquote the data, and I was just looking at it, but anyways, it's something like we're gonna be short in California something like 30,000 nurses. And the Cal State universities and the privates, which are beautiful and lovely, and we love partnering with them, but they can't keep up with the demand. There's just more students that want to get in than they are able to admit. And so there is legislation AB 895 moving through process right now, and it's gaining a lot of support, but also opposition. Which would allow community colleges to offer the.
And what's the opposition about? Is it about the sense of limited resources and scarcity and everybody's kind of fighting for their own kind of
staying in your lane? And again, we love our Cal State University colleagues, but it's in our best interest. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do in the community colleges is meet workforce needs.
Right.
We see a big need in nursing. We have a nursing program at Saddleback College. There's nursing programs throughout the state at the California community colleges, and we're poised to produce the baccalaureate degrees. We often hire the faculty from the four-year universities. It's the same program. It's the curriculum. It's rigorous. And yet, there's been some barriers. So we could offer baccalaureate degrees, I should have clarified, in other areas, but not in particular areas like nursing. That was part of the legislation. So we're working to change that legislation.
Julianna, from my own experience, like there's recruiting that happens on these campuses. usually it's from service providers, companies that are local, maybe some ones that are further reaching. In some schools, they're coming all the way from across the country to recruit their students because of certain assumed credibility or level of output.
Yeah.
Does that happen at the community colleges?
You mean for the baccalaureate?
No, just in general. Like if somebody that's a local business, like let's just use food and beverage, right?
Okay.
Let's use somebody that basically has multiple restaurants and it's a more of a corporation.
Yeah.
Are they actually seeking recruiting from the community colleges? And is that something that's always been the case, or has it been something that's more recent as they have gained more prominence?
Yeah.
I think personally I'm a witness of that, that we're actually working toward this to make sure we are going to give back to the community and teach the student how to really be part of the workforce in the community. And so in my industry, in the restaurant or hotel business, now they're seeking staff and they come to us, say, oh, I need a chef, I need a sous chef. And we help them, we work together. And this is, the college is really working with the community, so it's not this one thing.
And this is sort of one of the areas that I was trying to discuss is like, hospitality. Like we are a huge hospitality economy in Southern California, right? In Orange County specifically. And yet all I hear from people is, oh, well, we sought this management person from Cornell or whatever. And it almost seems like counterintuitive, because those industries also have a benefit from somebody who's familiar with the local market, with familiar with the local competition, where the resources are. So to bring somebody from across the country that is very, very seasoned in the academics of hotel management, for example, may now need to ramp up and get to know the local economy. Yet, while if you have somebody that's already in that space, are those companies conscious of the fact that that those community colleges may be good resources for them,
right?
Because they also promote from within. Like you bring them in, and then now you're promoting from within. That hospitality is very
Then I know you're giving an example of hospitality. By tradition, what we used to call our career technical education program, CTE, which we're now just saying career education, automotive, let's say. So I'll use that. Each of these career technical education programs actually establish industry advisory committees, and we do then have those strong partnerships where students know this is the kind of certification I need in order to get a job here or here or here, and we do already have those partnerships, but it doesn't exist for all of the disciplines. And so there is definitely a need and a desire to do that. There is such a focus now on workforce development and meeting workforce needs in Orange County. I know when I started my board of trustees, they wanted me to serve on the Orange County Business Council, the OCBC board. And I just was recently appointed as the co-chair for the workforce committee. And so we're working on really trying to bridge the gap between education and workforce in Orange County. We have it. And there's also, by the way, it's called OCRC, Orange County Regional Consortium, which also looks at the same thing. So the thing is I'm only 2 years in, and I'm on all these bodies, and I still see silos, but I also see opportunities for bridging. And so what you're describing is a need to strengthen education and industry need. And so it exists in pockets, but I think there's ways that we can do it better.
What's it going to take to do that?
That's the question.
Well, actually, the new project is in development now.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking just in my own world of the food industry. We're working with local restaurant owners or small hotels, but with a larger venue we're going to have, we're actually looking for corporates. And so you have a corporation, you can be a chain of hotel, a big entertainment park, and we can offer them the training of their staff, even they're already employed. We can train the staff.
I just look at it from both the perspective of a business owner and look at somebody that's looking for improving the output and services that you provide. And I think sometimes that silo mentality works against you, it actually makes you less competitive potentially
Yeah.
for somebody that's a newer comer
Yeah.
that is not rigidly restricted by their own sort of, we've done this for the last 20 years in this
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And sadly, in some industries, especially coming out of COVID, especially with not really fully recovering from 2008,
Yeah.
they're still sort of slugging it through.
Yeah.
Whereas if you make that table a little bit bigger, if you start looking at like the old adage of a rising tide raises all ships,
Yeah.
there is a benefit.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of tongue in cheek when I said, well, what's it going to take to do
Yeah.
that? Because there's also a human factor that gets in
Yeah.
the way sometimes of that.
Well, all humans are always in the middle, but you might have just signed yourself up for a new council, because I'll give a shout out to Jeff Ball, the CEO of OCBC. At our last workforce committee, the committee moved to establish what we call a mega advisory committee from key industries in Orange County,
Yeah.
so that we can have the conversations that we need to have more broadly and more collaboratively. Like I said, it's happening, and again, there's beautiful work happening at all the community colleges, but we realize that there's more that we could do, and that we can do it together better. And so we're establishing this kind of mega advisory board.
Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah.
I haven't met Jeff yet. I know
Yeah.
Lucy, who was there before.
Yeah.
And she's a friend. And yeah, that sounds like, I think we all also recognize that when it comes to Orange County, either we are aware of it, or you're
Yeah.
operating at a level, even though maybe you're
Yeah.
more recent at
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like somebody who's natively now translated, because I know you're like between San Diego and Orange County, but the county has matured, I think, to a certain point where we're still on our way, but I think we need to recognize
Yeah.
that what we need today is not necessarily what we had working for us in the past.
Definitely.
And we need to look at it through a larger, maybe, I don't want to use the word global necessarily, but
Yeah.
a wider lens. Go ahead, Paul.
I just want to pipe up and give you another example of what you're both talking about. She mentioned it, and you guys alluded to it. There are lots of things that we need in the county that you can't get at a four-year university, and one is automotive training. These are now computerized cars.
Yeah.
This isn't just changing the oil and changing the tires. And I don't know about your programs, but we had somebody here from Cypress College,
Yeah.
and it is in partnership with big, I don't know if it's Mercedes or something, but big companies, Toyota and Lexus and stuff like that.
Yes.
They're desperate for people who are trained in the computer and the electronics of these cars.
Yes.
And here's the catch. This is what I'm asking about. They can't get anybody to do it. These programs are almost fully funded, meaning you can get scholarships. They're almost free to go through. When you come out, you're almost guaranteed a $100,000 a year job. And when they go to the schools, parents say, don't look over there. We're going to learn French history. We're going to learn something else. I want you to go get a four-year degree, not a technical degree.
I think, kind of what we were talking about earlier, Paul, like you were saying that, you were on the track to, you went to law school and you were going to go into law.
I wasn't sure why. Just
Yeah.
I
so
mean,
that's
I would pay
next-
money to be in a courtroom watching
Right.
him try to.
And then you said engineer. So,
There
students.
were limited things that were offered to me that I was pushed
Right.
into. Yeah.
And that's just it. I think students see like doctor, lawyer, engineer, like teacher, some of the traditional careers. And so I think we need to do a better job of illuminating the fact that we have automotive technology where students get a job right away with a 6-digit. I'm telling you right now, the facility, and I love Cypress and I love my colleagues at Cypress. However, the facility that you're about to see at the Advanced Technology Education Park in Tustin is phenomenal. And talk about, working on all the technology. That's the focus. And we do have the partnerships with all the large
jobs
automotive.
of today that we
Yeah.
need and jobs of tomorrow.
But it's. I think it's even more basic.
Yeah.
Okay. I think and it's well intentioned,
Yeah.
but it's maybe misguided a little bit. The well intention is that if you, as a parent or a mentor or somebody that is basically, looking out for the best interests of somebody's future, you may tend to basically choose a path that seemingly is safer
Yeah.
to get to a certain point of sustainability of your life, of having a family, being able to pay your bills, etc. The interesting thing about life, and anybody that basically goes down an entrepreneurial path sometimes, is that those are not. They may be safe, they may be working, they
Yeah.
may work, but you need to be a certain personality to accept that that's the
Yeah.
path. And if you're not, then it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
And I think we as a society need to maybe do a better job of opening up the fact that there are other things that are also completely equally acceptable
Yeah.
as a pursuit.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not talking about, well, I don't feel passionate about this, so I'm only going to do what I'm passionate about. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be a certain reality that you've got to pay the bills, right? Passion isn't going to pay your bills on its own, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if somebody's genuinely passionate about something and is willing to do the hard work to
Yeah.
do this, the structuring
Yeah.
of that pathway,
Yeah.
that is as valid
Yeah.
in my book.
Yeah.
And doing it through community college and not necessarily through, like a
Right.
four-year degree or taking it to a higher level of, postgraduate.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And, Paul, to your point about the cars, okay, it's almost like that old adage about who gets paid most in New York, plumbers and electricians.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to
And-
the first thing you said about, I loved radio. I discovered radio in college. But at no point did I think of it as a serious career.
Yeah.
If I had gone back to my parents and said, I'm at the University of Michigan, I'm an honors graduate in political science and history, and I'm going to go work in a local radio station,
Yeah.
they would have died.
Well, and honestly, when I entered college, I didn't know what a chancellor was. I had no idea there was such
right.
such a job. But to your point, I think mindset, and we kind of talked about the fact that we've kind of
Stigmatized.
Stigmatized. That can't come out of my mouth, but I knew what I was saying.
Destigmatized,
That
yeah,
one. Community colleges, because again, we're on the map, right? However, I still think that we still need to illuminate particular jobs. For example, my former institution where I was college president, we had the state-of-the-art water wastewater program. I didn't know anything about water wastewater, but over that period of time, I went to all these various water industry board meetings, went to conferences on water, and I swear, and I still have it in my mind, but I thought, I'm supposed to be in a career in water, and I can't tell you how many people I met who were teachers or in other fields who transition into the field of water. There's a huge need for workers in the water industry, and it's not just water. There's HR positions in water and fiscal positions in water. It's a big business. But again, there's the unknown of what opportunities exist out there. And again, we have to do a better job of
We had
eliminating
Tom
that.
Katroulis in here who runs the OC Waste and Recycling for the county here. And he took me on a tour
Yeah.
because I was so fascinated of the dump. And he said, we don't call it a dump, but where they bury the trash. There's only, I think, 2 of them in Orange County.
Yeah.
And it is so sophisticated how they do this. Partly to maximize the space, partly to keep it from leaching into the water table, and partly because of the overwhelming demand. We have more and more trash, and we don't know how to where to put it. We're not
I
going
got to tell you, we got one down, Prima de Checa down in South County.
Yeah,
And that's the one you went to?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my local, what did they call it? If they don't call it a dump.
They call it a waste
Management
something
facility.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I like it.
So every time I go there, it seems to be building up elevation,
Yeah.
and it has some of the best views of the ocean, right? So at some point, that's not going to necessarily be a waste management
And
thing,
crazy
right?
things they do there, for example, not to go down a rabbit hole, but they hire a falconer, a guy who
Yeah.
brings falcons
Yeah.
to scare away the birds, the
Oh,
seagulls,
wow.
who would otherwise pick up the trash and carry it into the nest,
scattered
scattered all
everywhere.
over.
Now that's a cool job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
oh.
there is a falcon. There's
I wonder,
I want that job.
you think the falconer gets paid minimum wage? I don't think a
think so,
falconer
yeah.
gets paid minimum wage.
Right.
But no, I mean, listen, I'll use myself here as an example. If you had told me in 1991 that I'd be doing interior design in 2024, I'd say you're nuts. What's this? This is this soft thing. This arts and crafts thing that I do. Okay, and to your point, Julianna, it's like I didn't realize there was a path to this, and then when I started doing it, because of the realities of life,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to do hospitality. I ended up on an island on the east coast of Africa, on the island of Mauritius, for 3 months in the fall of '98, overseeing a hotel project, and I'm like, is somebody's paying for it? I'm getting paid for
Yeah.
this. I'm actually
Be on
on
vacation,
a
yeah.
lagoon
Yeah.
overseeing a project, right?
Yeah.
But it has a lot of the pieces, a lot of like the numbers side of it, the financial side of it, the branding side of it, the customer relationship side of it, the actual logistical execution side
Yeah.
of it, right?
Yeah.
But it's like this soft. This is soft, right?
Yeah.
What, fabric? She playing with fabrics all the time. Right? I would have told you in 1991, you're nuts.
Yeah.
So have community colleges picked up what we used to call trade schools? Is this a place to learn a trade and not just get the first couple years of your requirements out of the way, your history, your English, your math,
Yeah.
whatever, your science.
Or repivot, maybe.
Yeah, it's both. I mean, it's many things. I mean, many students do transfer to the four-year university. Many students do end with a degree or certificate and go directly into the industry. And then there's also a whole segment we haven't talked about, which is lifelong learning. I know in my colleges, we have a huge emeritus program where we serve about 6,000 mature adults, right? Our emeritus.
Why is everybody looking at me?
No, the word mature doesn't apply to you. I'm not looking at you at all.
Are you going to take my class?
You set yourself up for that,
I
Paul.
did.
You might need to increase your fire protection insurance if he's going to take your class.
Don't touch my knife.
That's the truth.
Don't touch my knife.
Yeah, but we do all those things. It's multiple missions. You know?
Well, we like to add to that. This
Yeah.
is why we create also apprenticeship. And because I always suggest, if you want to be in this type of industry,
Yeah.
could be a car industry or hospitality, I always say go to college, but still learn on the field.
Yes,
You
definitely.
know, because
Oh, there's no substitute for that. You're
Yeah.
not going to learn everything you need in the classroom environment.
Yeah.
There's just
yeah,
no way.
and you may not like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why taking those classes if maybe once you are in the industry,
I
it's
got to
not
tell you,
my
I'm
thing.
kind of shocked that it's only 6,000 people in life learning.
Oh, really? Of 5,000? I mean, of 50,000?
I'm,
Oh, you thought it would be more?
in terms of not necessarily in terms in comparison to the 50,000.
Yeah.
But in comparison of how many people in an aging demographic, in
Yeah.
an environment where financially you're not maybe necessarily, excuse me, not necessarily going back to
Yeah.
work is the motivation why you're doing
Yeah.
this, but you're at a point in your life where like, I've covered the
Yeah.
homestead. I've taken care of my kids. Now I'm
Yeah.
kind of doing a pursuit for a different reason.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's only 6,000
You
people
know,
that take advantage of
It
that.
might be underreported. So we have what we call emeritus institutes that are specific with particular classes, but that's not to say that we have others, let's say mature.
That may not be really
right,
being accounted for.
Right, that might be on the other side of taking the credit classes, right? That we're not. But I love that you're saying that because we clearly you referenced the aging population in Orange County, and I know that there was that recent community indicators report that said. I wish I had the data in my head, but it's something like 30% of the population the next decade or so will
Right.
be 65 plus. And then, of course, we see a shrinking, high school age population.
Absolutely. Some of the schools are being mothballed.
Right. So what we know is that I know for the community colleges, so that's why we're looking at where do we need to be proactive with regard to opening up the door to
And what are you offering?
right, and what are
as
we
programs? Yeah.
exactly. And so so you just kind of identified an area where we need to kind of
Well,
be more proactive.
And I
Yeah.
said this to you kind of tongue in cheek at
Yeah.
one time, like somebody who's basically was an accountant
Yeah.
or somebody who was more of a traditional career path and was
Mm-hmm.
able to support a family and pay their bills and their taxes and all this stuff. And now they find themselves in a situation where they're like, let's say in their late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they've done that. And they are comfortable enough to actually pursue something else. And they're looking around, they're going, while in the past it may have been 5-10 years. I mean, Paul, again, I hate to point the finger at Paul, but he's how long have you been doing this for the show?
Almost 15 years
15
now.
years.
I
as a-
reimagine myself in my 50s, my mid-50s here. I think Rod's onto something. We talked about this, I don't know if you remember, years ago, Rod, that we may not live linear lives anymore.
We don't. You're looking at anywhere between 20 to 30 years from that milestone that
Yeah.
used to be 5 to 10. And you're looking at it and you're going, oh, so I really want to play golf. And I'm like, but I don't want to play golf for the next 30 years. Like, what else am I going to
Right.
feel
So I
a
may go
sense of
back to
accomplishment
college
about, right?
and learn a new skill
So-
to carry me through that next
So maybe
20
I was
years,
a
right.
CPA and I went down the corporate path and I worked for a large consulting firm and everything, and now I'm comfortable and my kids are on their way and everything's great. And I always like archaeology. And maybe I want to go basically get some certification in archaeology and find myself on a dig site on some, Native American Indian site in Southern California, or go to Catalina Island and be involved in like a.
Very interesting. Even in my class, I have a couple of doctors where they are degrees, and they decide, oh, now I have a skill for cooking. I want to learn more. I want to be a private chef.
Yeah.
I want to have my own catering business.
Yeah.
Because baby boomers
And-
aren't
and
going to
you-
quit at 65, like everybody assumed, and just play for 30 years. Yeah, no. We want something to do that feels more meaningful,
Well, and-
maybe makes a little money.
And here's the thing that's interesting. Some of those people have the financial means
Yeah.
to actually pursue that path and actually put behind it. I mean, I'll use a perfect example. My brother-in-law is a laser eye surgeon. Okay, he started off as an engineer, electrical engineer, and then he became a laser eye surgeon. And I told him, I don't know, and he goes, "Oh, it's the same." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know if I'm going to get the treatment there." But no, he's a great laser eye surgeon. But he found a passion for woodworking, and I mean, I'm not talking like intricate marquetry, right? And he has the means. My sister doesn't like the fact that her garages have been now converted to a complete workshop, right? But he has the means to do that, and he has the means to pursue that, and then because he enjoys it, also pass it on to other people. So now your purpose in life has shifted.
Yeah.
You become an artisan.
Yes,
and
you have the ability to do that, and we need those artisans too as part of our overall makeup of our society.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you're missing a market if you're not targeting that, because I think as high school attendance goes down,
Yeah.
I've read more and more about this cliff that colleges are facing, where there's a massive drop off in attendance because there aren't that many kids following up. And what are they going to do to keep the doors open? I think they have to pivot to an older marketplace.
Yeah, two things. One, with regard to the high school population, one thing I didn't talk about is dual enrollment. So we're seeing like a huge increase in students who are in high school who are taking college courses concurrently. And they're completing high school, they're graduating from high school, but also getting an associate's degree at the same time. Which means at 18, when they graduate high school, they can go, they're a junior somewhere else.
Wow, yeah.
Which is beautiful. By the side note, it was all over, you probably read about it. I know Irvine Valley College had one of the youngest graduates. She was 11 years old.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and she beat her brother's record from the year before, who was almost 12 when he graduated. And by the way, her younger sister, who's 9 years old, is enrolled at Irvine Valley College.
That's crazy.
I know it's really, that one, I digress on that one. But I love what you're saying. And I think I mentioned this to you guys, that we're launching our new strategic plan. And I know a lot of people talk about strategic plan, like, oh, strategic plan, but I absolutely love strategic planning. We just launched our next 5-year strategic planning process last week. It'll be a year-long process for both of the colleges and district, and there will be a lot of community engagement and feedback. And I love what you're saying. My brain's already like ding, 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 because as you mentioned, we talked about earlier, there's the aging population and a desire. People might want to, I love what you described. You have medical doctors in your class who want to become chefs.
Or a chef or something.
But
They find a passion.
Right. We haven't always quite marketed ourselves that way, and marketing, and illumination is a big part of what we should and need to do, because we have what folks
So
may
maybe you
need.
start in college and school, and then you come back to it at some point in time.
Yeah.
well, and those people that we're talking about, those people that are pursuing this, it's not really an encore career. Let's call it an unobstructed passion pursuit, right? And have the means to do that. Those are basically now examples that are associated just the same way as alumni in Ivy League colleges, whatever, are championed and heralded as being, here's a success story.
Yeah.
Here are the people that are the success story. And they're people that are, and Paul will tell you, and I agree completely, all news is local news. All success stories are local success stories. Like, I don't care if there's somebody in New York that has a success story.
Yeah.
Oh, something happened in San Clemente and Dana Point has a success story. Like I think there's impact that is tangible when you have it that close to home.
Yeah.
But you have to also think, okay, strategic, to your point about strategic planning, it's like, because you have to apply resources, you have to put resources towards a goal, right? What does success look like?
Right.
What are the programs?
Yeah.
And how do you basically tap into that? Do you tap into that with some community involvement?
Yeah.
Do you survey some of these people? But there is gold in those golden years.
Yeah.
In a way that people have not
I'll
actually.
give you another example.
Yeah.
So my wife is 72. I'm in my late 60s. She retired from 40 years in banking. And, of course, she came out of high school and went to work as a teller and never went to college. And part of her feels bad about that and wishes at some point she could have gone back and learned some of those things. Now she's at a position where she has the money and the time. She's got an income, retirement stuff here. Our house is paid off. But she doesn't know what to do with herself. And I said to her, well, you should go back to school. She said, I can't go back to school. It's too late. It's to what? And I said, not just to explore art or whatever you find cool or fun or something here. maybe you would find a new purpose and a new passion.
Yeah.
You know, like she's really into
Because school
health.
is what supposed to be a timestamp part of your
Exactly.
life in a phase.
I'll feel weird, and I'll
phase.
stick out, and what's the point? And it's stupid, and I'm not going to get a career at 75 or something here.
Paul, I will personally work with your wife, so I'm serious.
Yeah.
I want to chat with her and get her on the path. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Paul, you know, the thing about that is, again, it goes back to that mindset,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Like is schooling only something you do in one point of your life, and then what, you stop growing, you stop learning, you know, or is it that we need to infuse that no, learning is a lifelong process,
Right.
Whether it's personal growth, whether it's skill set development, it is a lifelong process. That element of curiosity over your whole life actually will help you age better. Okay, and how do we know that? How many self-help books and all those little things that get sold all the time, whether it's audiobooks or book hardbacks, right? And people buy them because there is a hunger for knowing. It's just that I don't think societally it's like, no, you go get your education and now you have a skill set and knowledge base. Now you apply it towards X. But even in companies, like until very recently, I mean, only the progressive companies, I think, actually offered that continuing growth and skill development within that company, with the understanding that these people that we have that are employees are actually going to be a better resource for us as a company if we actually expand their skills versus just kind of like time-stamp them in when they came out of school.
And you mentioned Encore Careers, and you kind of dismissed that.
I don't want to call it Encore Careers because it's not necessarily a career the way that we normally pursue.
But I'm in an Encore career. At mid-50s, I was forced, what I did PR and marketing, all that collapsed. And so suddenly I found myself in the need for a new Encore career. I wasn't ready to retire at 55. I'm not ready to retire at 65. My wife isn't really ready to retire at 70.
To me, the word career, Paul, means it's a path of progression. That you basically start off at an entry level and then you go to a mid-management level and you go.
Maybe not that.
You're not in an Encore career because you found your spot, your sweet spot of managing the station the way you manage the station. You have no interest in making the station a national station. You have no interest in basically growing this thing where you have 5 studios around the county.
No.
Right. So it's not a career. We need a different word for this
Whatever
that has equal
I
validity than anything else that we
but
use.
My point is that people assume at 55 or 60 you're done. And today, the good news is we're going to live to be 95. The bad news is we're going to live to be 95. What am I going to do for those 30 years? And how many of us do need to still make some money?
Right, of course.
And so if I could find something I could make some money and find a new passion as a woodworker, as a chef, or something like that, not just for fun, not just for shits and giggles.
Well, it's a rewarding path, and the word rewarding is both financial and personal, and other things that you feel rewarded by. It's not necessarily that the financial component is not important.
So imagine if at 55 I said, maybe I should look into this thing called podcasting. And rather than going to YouTube and teaching myself how to do it, I could have gone to Saddleback and taken emeritus classes or something in the world of digital media and podcasting and all that kind of stuff. None of that exists in any of these.
So you want to turn it into a career, Paul? You take that skill set you've developed or you've honed, let's say, over the last 10 years, because I think you developed it when you were back in college days.
I drew upon stuff I knew.
Okay, you want to turn it into a career. You take that and you teach those skill sets to other people.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Especially
Especially
in a world where digital content development is huge and you can't escape it. Like you and I both know there's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do this.
I've always said Saddleback has an outstanding film program. We've had some people on from that,
and on theater too,
and theater, but they haven't.
Dance.
But
And
they
dance,
don't have something in digital media. Santa Ana tried to do it. The program fell apart. They built a building, and then the guy left. There is more. My grandson dreams of being a YouTube content creator more than he does a fireman or a policeman.
Yeah, talk about running a radio station not being valid as a pursuit. Now people want to be that YouTube influencer,
podcast, YouTube influencer,
and you can't really argue with them on the financial side because currently they're making a good living.
So where do you go learn to do those new digital skills? They're teaching themselves. And then that means they're bypassing college altogether. And I think
maybe learning things in a way that doesn't work or falling victim to somebody who's trying to sell them.
But you don't make that a career.
Yeah.
It's just temporary.
No, the
Not-
people
not
are
necessarily.
literally making
Really?
careers. yeah.
Really? What about all the people that are on the news that have been on there for the last 40 years
Yeah.
that built a career out of basically sitting in front of a mic and a camera, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not influencers.
Yeah.
Sure, they are.
Yeah,
oh my
but
God!
You got your news from Walter Cronkite. You got your news from Peter Jennings. I mean, those are influencers.
Who's the
they,
kid
they
that just
are, but
that makes $100 million just going to deal for Netflix and all the other stuff here? Whose name I can't think of. My grandson watches.
And you're
them
like,
all
oh
the
no,
time.
this is not going to last. This is going to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 20 years.
Ton of
I
people
don't think it has.
that they're becoming the new media stars. They're getting more attention than the network stars.
So, Julianna, you've been here for 2 years.
Yes.
Your contract is how long usually? Like
It's a four-year.
4-year contract. Okay. So, what does success look like for you?
There you go.
If you look back from a point
We'll
of
have,
4
we'll have
years.
to make this the last question because we're down to the end here. So
I do. I'll
Yeah,
answer
yeah,
that
yeah.
question, but I also just want to talk about. I don't know where the digital media programs are, so I'll want to explore that. But I do want to say that as a system, the California Community College system, there is a distinct focus on using technology to embed technology more robustly into our programming. I just talked to Sonia Christian, who's the state chancellor for all 116 community colleges. She was at Saddleback College this morning, and she wants to invite our colleges to participate in the statewide, it's called a Digital Transformation Task Force. And so I think moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll see better responsiveness. But anyways, I don't know where the programs are, but there's a need. And I
I'm
think
going to tell you they don't exist.
Yeah.
You look at all the community colleges throughout Orange
Yeah.
County and even the four-year institutions. They're still teaching yesterday's
Well,
media.
and I will tell you, even if you're digitizing, sometimes we're responding to things that already happened.
Yeah.
Right? And we're trying to catch up on this. So if you basically do a digitization program, and what it is adding technical skill sets into, the word is loosely used here, but traditional
Yeah.
movie making, or radio, or media,
Yeah.
or music production,
shows
or whatever,
and
right?
stuff, yeah.
You're missing out on the fact
Yeah.
that people are able to do stuff with AI, free AI, or $40
Yeah.
a month AI out on their phones today.
Yeah.
That this whole digitization thing, by the time it actually
Yeah.
rolls out, is it going to still be relevant and sustainable?
Yeah.
And I'll give you a perfect example. So the digital world isn't just using different technology. It's telling different stories in a different way. So YouTube
Yeah,
themselves,
who's teaching the storytelling component of
exactly.
the development of digital
YouTube,
content?
for a number of years,
Yeah.
had a studio up in Playa del Rey, fully tricked out TV studio with multiple sets. If you had enough viewers, you could go and use this thing for free. The idea was, we will try and take your production and take it to the next level and maybe give you more viewers. But what they didn't do was tell you what to do, because they don't know what to do. They can't figure themselves out why somebody's watching 80 million people eat bacon or chase a ball or do some silly thing.
Why are 2 million people watching a cat, like basically playing
So
with a
they've
string?
given up. It's imagine handing the keys to the movie studio to some kid and say, you know more about what the audience wants than I do. So now they closed that down during COVID because of problems and everything else. And I thought, what a shame. Where do kids learn, other than in their garage or their basement or whatever, how to create tomorrow's stories?
Well,
using-
in your example, Paul, they're not handing the keys to the movie studio. They're handing the keys to the star that they don't even know is a star, but for some reason people are paying attention
who's
to.
18 and they don't know why, or 16 or 12.
Right.
Or
So
something.
so again, I go back to just kind of like, I think we're all over the map here at this point, but right. But what does
But that could be the community colleges role.
yeah.
That
Well,
could-
I think, like I said earlier, I think what I'm hearing is that community colleges versus maybe more traditional structured, academic entities have the ability to actually explore innovatively
Yeah.
into certain things, okay, that are locally impacting
Yeah.
in a way that I didn't realize before this conversation,
Yeah.
right? And where that is, it's a wide open conversation,
Yeah.
really, honestly, right? And it could vary today from 5 years from now,
Yeah.
right? And if you're agile and flexible enough to adjust to that, then you become a very reliable and important resource for the
Yeah.
community development.
Yeah.
What does success to you look like 4 years in being in this position?
That's a great question. Thank you. Well, the technical answer, you probably don't want that one, but obviously
you can start with that one, but you're not going to get away with that one.
So, I mean, because honestly, I started by saying when I went to college, I didn't even know what a chancellor did.
Right.
So people don't know what I do. They go, what does a chancellor do anyway? And my simple response is, I make dreams come true,
Wow.
which is true. because because a lot of people say, don't you miss like being in the classroom with students and interfacing more robustly with students? And I say absolutely, but I know that at the system policy level, I'm opening up doors and removing barriers so that all of our students could succeed. So when you say, what does success look like, we're like in the trenches looking at our data, and what we see is that there's particular populations of students who are not making it from various momentum points. They're not making it to the finish line. And it's no fault of their own. It's an institutional responsibility to identify what are those system barriers or cultural barriers or instructional barriers. Where are the barriers that are prohibiting our students from succeeding and making it to the finish line? And then it's incumbent upon me to work with the teams and all of the constituent groups to remove those barriers and then replace them with other things that will allow our students to succeed. So what does success look like? I would love to see greater levels of closing of equity gaps and greater numbers of students who are graduating who mirror the demographics of the community that we serve, because there's a disparity, there is a gap. And again, I started by saying we have diverse students in many ways, shapes, and forms, but not all the students make to the finish line. So success for me would be greater levels of equitable access and greater levels of equitable success on the finish line. There's that. But I also want to say that, again, we're a collection of human beings. We've talked about this is a human relations, human being job.
Absolutely.
50,000 students. So I talked about what I would love to see. I would love to see the students come to us with their hopes and dreams, and they're counting on us to make it. So it's our students. But again, I also talked about the fact that I have over 3,000 employees. We spend at least a third of our time. I joke around and say about a third of our time is in bed sleeping, so get a good mattress. A third of our time is at home, so create a positive home environment. But a third of our time is also at work. And it's a reciprocal responsibility, right? It's my responsibility as the chancellor working with my administrative team to create the conditions, the working conditions, and the climate and the environment where people feel good about the work that they do. And so, but again, it's
right,
also,
because if you don't, it doesn't translate to the end user.
Exactly.
Or the student.
So I would love, just in terms of climate and culture, for it just, and it's, we do these climate surveys and that kind of thing, but I talk to people as well. But I would love also at the end of the day for our employees to also feel really good. Not that they don't already, but I really want to improve campus climate and sense of belonging, well-being for all of our employees as well.
Well, I mean, Chef Pascal will probably agree with me on this. You are only as good as every single person in the chain of the service industry. It's the same thing here. Like, you can't basically be so focused on the outcome of the student only that you're forgetting about your faculty.
Right.
You can't be focused on the faculty that you're forgetting about your staff.
Yeah.
You can't forget about the people maintaining the grounds in the campus.
Exactly.
Like, it's all basically a holistic thing that leads everybody to feel good about what they're doing and contributing, and then that translates to that student. Before you jump in, Paul, so you kind of opened the door a little bit, and I'm just curious, okay? So those barriers, what are some, I have two-part question. What are some of the barriers, like maybe one or two barriers that you see that are workable, that just, that the community at large, awareness increase basically would help with eliminating some of those barriers or minimizing them? And then the follow-up question that I have is, how do people in the community, because I think sometimes too, when you look at, this is community colleges, Cal State system, University of California system, as a community person, how can, unless you're taking a class, but let's say I'm not taking a class, how do they contribute? How could they assist? What are the venues in which a community person can actually get involved or assist or offer to volunteer or provide services? Like, you look at nonprofits and you do it that way. Is there ways for the community to also provide that support?
With regard to system barrier removal, that type? Well, one simple one that immediately came to mind when you were asking that question is understanding the policy legislative impacts that prohibit particular students from moving forward and supporting that legislation.
Where do I get that information?
That I love that. I know. So here I said AB 895, and I thought you'd go, of course, I've read about AB 95.
That's exactly why I'm asking the question, because
no, this is great.
It's just an assumption that what you know about But I, as a community member, don't have no
Yeah.
clue.
Yeah. I love that.
What
No-
is it, like an open house at the community colleges where I got informed about
Yeah.
that? No.
Yeah.
And so if you are, and the word community is in the name.
Yeah.
So if person, member of the community, whether they are a grandparent, whether they're somebody who's, a young family member, if they want to get involved,
Yeah.
I know where to go volunteer for a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I know where I can take my skill set and maybe make it better.
Yeah.
Right? But how do I do that with a community college?
Yeah, I love that. And going back to what we talked about earlier, there's siloed ways like when you say that, I'm like, gosh, I'm on this board, that board, and I've talked about 895, for example, and all the settings that I've been in. But you're making me think: how do we do it at scale? How do we broaden that community engagement? So I think there's opportunity there.
I think sometimes when you label something like with a assembly bill or whatever, the initial reaction is more government stuff.
Yeah.
Secondly,
I would say she has 2 more years to work on that.
No, but I think it's language is very important. If you told me AB 25, whatever the number is,
You're right.
I don't even care what the number is.
Yeah.
Right? But if you told me that, I have no clue.
Yeah.
You have also lost me,
Yeah.
right? But if you tell me equity relevant to this, handleable that way, I
more
can
nurses in the.
I can relate to that.
I hear you. And again, we're having a conversation, and I'm talking that way. But you're right. I do talk like that. But I think in general.
No, but I think that's normal. Like anybody in a certain industry or sector, it's like me talking about, ADU and this. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So here's my last question. The really like, because we can get off at 2:30 here. How do they reach you if they want to learn more?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Well, we have a lovely, robust website.
You do. You have a
to
great
start with. soccd.edu, and then I'm on there too, so it could be.
Can people really reach you, or are you too high up the ivory tower here?
Oh, they do reach me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you create maybe a parallel position to you will be open to the community, so you can concentrate on your work by having someone who can relay?
Yeah, where do you send people to learn all these things?
That's like an interesting actually segue, because if you really think about it, who are the community liaisons at the community college level?
Yeah.
The trustees, and then who else? Like
Because sometimes you're afraid to open the door.
Who's the ombudsman?
Yeah.
Like the Council for Aging has ombudsmen.
Yeah.
Right. Who's the ombudsman for the community colleges?
That's a great question.
Is there a door at your president office that anybody can show up and then say, okay, I have a question?
I mean, by the way, I'm not picking on community colleges. I think every organization has this problem. They basically get siloed and have their board meetings and all this stuff, and they don't realize that. It's like, but people know where we are.
Yeah.
They'll come to us.
Yeah.
No. You got to go to them.
Yeah. Well, and again, going back to the silo, we have faculty who are engaged in community organizations.
Absolutely, your faculty are a big deal.
Right, and so they're at all levels, and so. But you're just making me think about how do we do that more robustly and make sure, like, if a community member wants, I love the question, how do you get reached, right? And so I think there should be an easier way for our community to be able to reach.
It's like
us.
a CEO.
Yeah.
You don't think you can really get to the CEO of whatever.
Well,
Medtronic or something.
and at the end of the day, relevant to something like this, where you're community college and you're basically state related, there's the policy is serious. Like you and unless you basically make it easy for people to comprehend what the policy is and where maybe the breakdown is.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it there. All right. Any last thoughts, Raad? Take us out.
Please be kind to Pascal when he's co-hosting the show.
Think of Raad.
He will be hosting.
Can
the show.
you be kind with the fish?
Yes, I will. I will bring you guys fish.
One fish at a time.
Whatever little fish I find in the Mediterranean.
And will you send us a picture of you on this luxury yacht?
Well, I might actually try to zoom in, actually. All right, one of these days, depending on the time difference and everything. But I will stay up late, and I will basically do that.
I always see pictures of famous celebrities on their private yachts in the Mediterranean. That's Raad.
No. And you know what? To that point, what Paul is saying, it's okay to shut out and get off the grid every once in a while. That mental health thing is actually underrated, right? But it's very important.
Take your time to come back.
I have
Pascal's embedding himself.
So please be kind to Pascal. I really love the fact that you're doing this.
Thank you.
Really, and I can't wait to be a listener listening in on the show, all right?
Learning about your own life.
And I, I'm not sharing anymore, but we may have some news when I come back.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's
Thanks.
what I'll leave it. And Julianna, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for
It
having
was
me.
really a good conversation,
That
as
was
always.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
All right, here we go.